Good morning, audience. I'm here today with 5 of our students. We have a mixture of classes and years. So let's start with Elizabeth Blum. Liz, she's currently a double major with data science and computer science. And that's why she's on that limit of sophomore, not quite junior, not quite full sophomore. So she's the youngest one among us. Then we have the 2 juniors, Aayush Patel and Mel Kibudo. I'm probably messing that up.
Nope.
And then we'll go to our senior, Dan Mello, who is currently in his last semester of the bachelor program. And he happens also to be a team lead for his senior design project. And finally, we have Liza. Liza is a special lady. So Liza was the first one, I think, to go through our degree in 3 program. So this program is reserved for the best and brightest, and it involves a lot of planning and a lot of advising, and she very successfully went with it. And then now she's a graduate student. So she selected us again to continue her education, and then we'll wrap it up with some general advice for new students. So my question to you guys is why UMass Dartmouth and why computer science? I know that it's not an easy major, but how did you come to come to us, and how did you come to stay with us if it was ever an issue? So Liz, let's start with you, please.
Sure. Hello. So I go to UMass Dartmouth because it's close and convenient, but it also works out that I actually really enjoy the school. I started in school for data science, and I learned through my data science program that I liked the computer science aspect of data science. And so instead of just changing majors completely, it made sense to just tack on a second major. And the faculty have been phenomenal, whether it's professors or the advisors. I don't know what Megan's position is, but that advising counselor. So she was phenomenal with helping us pick our classes. And so everybody's very warm and welcoming and accepting. So there's if you have questions or problems, there's people to answer them for you. So I don't know, I think, yeah, we'll just go with that.
So you're still in the beginning sort of the computer science major.
I have to play catch up.
Mixing junior classes for data science. Does it impose any additional semesters for you? How is it academically?
I had to tack on 1 semester, but that's because I'm a mom, so I cannot take extra classes like some younger kids might be able to take. So if you want to load yourself up with classes, you could probably finish in the same amount of time, but I thought it was best for me to extend it 1 semester, but that's 1 semester, not a whole year, so.
Okay. Well, thank you, Liz. So let's go to the juniors. Aayush, what's your story?
Oh, my story. So my story is kind of crazy at the same time, kind of interesting, I guess you could say. But how I came about when choosing computer science is of course, I loved problem solving. That was kind of like my basis. But when it comes to, I think what UMass Dartmouth did for me, I think Liz described it perfectly. It was very welcoming because any prior experience I had with computer science was 1 hour of MIT Scratch programming, which is not really that much, prior to coming to college. But when it comes to from the professors to my advisor, Clinton Rogers, of course, TAs, they're very helpful when it comes to like guidance on how you're going about it. Everyday issues. I remember being in office hours seeking for help. I wasn't the brightest of students, but I think when it comes to being successful in major like computer science, it's like the amount of work you put in. But at one point, I almost thought about dropping it, but I'm glad I stuck with it. So here I am.
Okay, good to hear. And I'm glad that you're with us and continuing strong on your way to having senior design. Oh my goodness, you'll be graduating in a year. Mel, what about your experience?
Okay. My experience actually, I love it here, quite frankly. So originally I chose UMass as a whole because of the 4+1. But UMass Dartmouth in particularly is it's the smallest of the 4 schools. It's about 8,000 for population. So it's not small by any definition, but it's not too big. You get to know your professors, you get to know your other classmates. So community is very much there. And they actually do very good with, like, in terms of finances, they're really nice. Knowing what I know now, I mean, the community, the professors are really nice. I also have Professor Rogers as my advisor. However, the teachers don't mind if you go to other teachers. So I go to Professor Vilova, so I go to you, for advising just as equally. And I started computer science when I was a freshman in high school. So my high school was a huge tech area. So we got iPads. We were pretty much forced to incorporate technology 24/7 into our lives. And computer science, I went into that mainly because I like being creative. I like learning about the different concepts because, I mean, technology is interesting. And I like helping people with possibly in the future.
You have been certainly very actively participating in the mentoring program, which I'm very grateful for. I should mention that Mel was a voluntary mentor, so she wasn't paid, but she still provided invaluable help in my sophomore class on procedural programming. Without students like you, Mel, our jobs will be much more difficult. So thank you for your service. All right, so next in line, the only senior, Dan.
So yeah, UMass Dartmouth. So so UMass Dartmouth, I originally chose it because it was close to home. Originally, I was enrolled in a 4-year program at another university, which didn't really end up working out for me. So I thought, what's something that could be, more affordable and closer to home? So that's how I ended up choosing Dartmouth. And I was really surprised because one of my main concerns, both, shifting into this role where I was both a transfer student and a commuter student, I thought, how would it be possible for me to make any friends? Would it sort of just, would that be like a huge setback for me? And I was really surprised to find out that it wasn't. UMass Dartmouth, like pretty much what the other people here have said, the faculty are really dedicated to welcoming students into this community and sort of fostering that sense of community. And even the students themselves and my own peers, I was very glad to discover that the opportunity to make those connections that you'd make in college wouldn't be lost, being both a transfer and a commuter student. So that's sort of my experience with it.
Okay. And what influenced you to volunteer for a team lead of your capstone project?
Yeah, to be a team lead, I thought it would be, I'm not like super fluent with public speaking or anything, but I thought it would be a really good opportunity to, at least what my impression of the working world is, you're going to be working with a team of people. You're going to be working closely with people. So developing these sort of communication skills where you're collaborating with different people to build a product or solve a problem. That's pretty much invaluable experience, because that's essentially, as someone in a STEM field, that's a majority of what you're going to be doing throughout your entire career. So definitely great work experience if, for anyone who's thinking of choosing to step into that role as a team lead.
Thank you. You're essentially reaffirming what the other alumni have said, two of whom were actually team leads themselves, and they pretty much speak to the same reason to volunteer for team leadership. So it's really a good resume builder, so to speak.
Absolutely.
As well as cultivating the communication skills, as you mentioned. So Liza, I'm sorry to leave you for last, but you're the only graduate student in the bunch. So you have very rich experience with UMass Dartmouth. Could you please start from the beginning, freshman year?
All right, so I kind of always knew that I wanted to go to UMass Dartmouth. Both of my parents went to UMass Dartmouth, my dad for computer science in particular. So I had that example of, hey, go to
Please
UMass
don't
Dartmouth.
tell me that I thought your father.
No. Yeah, don't worry. So I went to UMass, did computer science, was able to work through college and pay it off. Granted, times have changed a little bit now, but still the idea of UMass Dartmouth as a state school, it's close to home and it's small, like we've talked about, in the sense of if you want to form a relationship with your professors, you can, and they're eager and willing to work with you in that regard. Yeah, I commute. I live about half an hour from campus. It's easily located off 195. Makes for an easy commute in the morning, no traffic. But yeah, so UMass Dartmouth was always a cinch for me. And computer science I got into because, again, my dad did computer science, but also I always really enjoyed like math classes in school. Like I took AP Calc, AP Stats, I was all over it. But I also really did creative things in high school. I did dance, theater, band, you name it, I probably did it. But I knew realistically I wasn't going to be good enough at any of those things to pursue a career out of it. So you take the logic from math, you take the creative aspects from my other passions, put them together, and you get computer science, where you have logic and solving a problem, but then you have the creativity of, how do I want my solution to look like, UI design, make it your own project, thing like that. So that's why I went to UMass Dartmouth for undergrad. And then on top of that, I chose to come back for my grad degree here, again, because the staff, the faculty is amazing. You go and make a relationship with them and they're willing to work with you. Dr. Valova and Professor Rogers, especially. There are others, but those are just the two that pop into my head right away. Yeah, they're always willing to work with you, even other professors for the tech electives, the upper end classes where, you might only have them for a semester or two, but still are willing to work with you. And especially with this pandemic, I've had professors I've met with 7, 8 o'clock at night and been like, oh, I'm trying to figure this out. Like, why won't it work? That kind of thing. And, they're, oh, I'm not doing anything right now. Let's hop on a call. On top of that, I also work as a teacher's assistant for the underclassmen for undergrad. So what that means pretty much is that UMass Dartmouth pays for my tuition for graduate school and then pays me a stipend on top of that. So effectively, I'm really making money by going to UMass Dartmouth for my graduate degree. And, again, the TA positions, you're not gonna, you can get if you don't form relationships with professors, but you're much more likely to get these positions, if you put in the work and form these connections and the professors know you and they say, oh yeah, I want you for my class to TA because I know you do the work and you're gonna make something out of it. But yeah, that's UMass Dartmouth in a nutshell.
Thank you. I wanted to touch up a little bit further. So Liza has been a mentor as well in your undergrad, I believe, before you became TA. I don't recall whether you were paid as a mentor or not, but we certainly value the students who are stepping forward and want to help out, whether paid or unpaid positions. This is certainly a serious time commitment. And obviously you have to know what you're talking about and you have to know how to guide the students. If you think, oh, I'm just answering questions, it is a lot more than that. We certainly appreciate your time, effort, and commitment for that. But let's talk about internships. So I understand that a few of you have had internships, and how easy was it to get them? Where did you get them from? As in, was it through UMass, maybe a job fair, maybe handshake, or was it that you applied on your own online? Let's start with Mel.
Okay, so I had an internship my freshman year. So this was before the pandemic. And I actually had connections I made through the high school, and then I connected back with them when I was a freshman. And when I told them I went to UMass, they were pretty much happy with that. So.
Okay. Aayush, you mentioned that you've had internships.
Yes, absolutely. So when it comes to my internships, I actually was fortunate enough to secure an internship in the middle of pandemic last summer. But how it came about is number one, networking. Networking is huge. I think UMass Dartmouth, I never saw myself as somebody who's going to be part of Greek life, but I ultimately joined Greek life. Through that, I've had connections, and I was able to secure an internship as a backend software developer. It was a great experience. I learned how to basically fostering an app from scratch. When it was a mobile app, how the development process is, the thinking that goes behind it. I usually sat in meetings, took notes on how they planned, what decisions they had to make the app better when it comes to debugging, what was going wrong. So it was definitely an interesting experience, all because of one, I networked, I put myself out there, and I got more involved on campus. So it was perfect.
Thank you. I know that Liz just got news about a very competitive internship, and I can't wait to hear from her regarding that.
So my freshman year, I had reached out to Professor Rogers about internships and jobs and what kind of jobs there are for computer science majors, because I wasn't certain. And he's the one that told me about this internship. But at the time I had no experience, so I didn't want to apply for something that I didn't know what I was doing. But now that I'm that sophomore junior level, I have some tools under my belt. So he's the one that reached out to me and said that they were hiring, or I guess they were looking for interns, and that was the time to apply. So I made sure I applied, and I had to get a couple of reference letters from a few faculty members. And I had to write a lot of essays and explaining like why I deserve this internship over someone else. And it's a government internship, so it's actually based out of Virginia, and they have labs throughout the state. So I got the lab that was closest to home for me. And now we kind of just wait and see what position internship that I'm going to have there, because I'm not too sure the next step, but I did get accepted. So next year I'll be able to tell you guys about it.
And this is for the summer of this year, right?
Summer, yep. It's a 10-week program, and it's paid internship. Not all internships are paid, so I was very excited.
All right. So get ready to buy that new car. So I think that Liza shares being an awardee of that same internship, but I know that you've been having probably the same internship, or maybe I wasn't listening. Please share your experience.
Yeah. Like Dr. Vlova mentioned, I did the degree in 3 program, which made my timeline for internships a little messy because I felt like I wasn't really fully prepared after my second year to like go get a real internship for myself. But then after my 3rd year, I already had the degree. So a little bit of a mess up there. I probably should have, but oh well. So once I graduated, I ended up getting an internship at Schneider Electric based out of Foxborough. I didn't get it through UMass, although they do have a lot of resources like the job fairs that I had checked out. I got this through a friend of a friend, that kind of thing. And yeah, I've been doing that since I graduated. So it's been almost like 2 years, 1.5 years. And actually, we're in the talks now of when I graduate in May with my master's degree, turning this into a full-time position. So that's exciting. But what I do there basically is test automation engineer. That's my official title. And I help take their manual tests and convert them into automatic tests. So instead of someone having to like click all the buttons to test the software, I write scripts and libraries and C# and Python that take care of that for them. And yeah, it's been pretty great. And, you know, I'm excited for my full-time position if it all works out. Should be good.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing this. It has been a year almost since the pandemic started, so I don't quite remember anymore, but how many of you lived on campus? Like in the dorms? No one? Oh, great. Could you please relate your experience freshman dorms? Somebody was asking whether they get their own room, like a individual room. I know nothing about the freshman dorms as faculty. So if you could please tell us a few words. Aayush?
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to the freshman dorms, you can either choose to stay in a single, or you can choose to stay with another roommate. For me, I thought about having just a single to myself, you know. I was kind of in that mentality of I'm going to be a computer science major. I need to focus. However, it is way better if you usually have a roommate, not only because of the price standpoint, but when it comes to you get accustomed to living together, you know, managing stuff like that. Plus, it's kind of like a good way to network. You know, you get to know them. You don't essentially, if you have problems, of course, you can talk to somebody about it, whether it be your RA and stuff like that. When it comes to the overall experience of living in dorms, it definitely is way better when you're not just by yourself in your room the whole time. But my experience overall has been pretty positive. So yeah.
Okay. Mel, how about you?
So I did do a single. I enjoyed it because of the privacy that he's like, you need to communicate. That is true. So you guys will get the newer dorms most likely versus what we had to deal with, which will obviously change a little bit of your thing, but you actually have the choice, like you said, the single or the double, or you might even have the triple if they even have that anymore. But if you do single, understand that won't really affect you. It just means you get to sleep by yourself, but you have all your suite mates or your hall mates that you could go bother, and your friends are literally down the hall no matter what you do. So
Okay. Are you housed usually by major, or is it a mixed bag?
mixed, I would
It's
say.
usually mixed when it comes to it, but you can prefer, so there is quiet housing if you prefer, you know, to not be disturbed by anybody. But there's, of course, mostly it's co-ed housing. But like she said, you have your friends that are literally down the hallway that you can annoy whenever you want. So yeah, I used to do that to Mel. I used to annoy her about problems all the time.
It was fun.
Well, one day we have to reminisce about that. All right. I guess we can move towards wrapping this round table discussion up. But I wanted to ask each of you. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I wanted to ask you if you have one advice to give to incoming students, what would it be? Let's start with Liza because she's the most experienced.
Right on the spot. Okay. Don't keep to yourself. You know, when you're in high school, you've had the same group of friends as probably throughout K through 12 that you've been with, that you know, like the same teachers in a high school, that kind of sense. And, you know, they'll be on you if, you know, like get your work done, that kind of thing. No one's in control of you when you're in college. It's you do your own thing. If you go to class and want to go straight back to your dorm, you can. If you want to go to the library to get your work done, you can. It's really a sense of independence that I found to be really overwhelming when I first started. And as a commuter, my first semester, I'd go to class, and a lot of the times I just go home or like go to the library and that kind of thing. So to my freshman self and to all of you, I suggest get involved. If you commute, don't go home after classes, make some friends, because friends are what's going to get you through computer science, especially. I know study groups, that kind of thing is really great. And don't be afraid to ask for help, because as a student and as a TA, I get both sides of student teacher. You know, I want to ask for help, but I feel bad asking for help. Like, I should know this. No, there's no shame in asking for help. And I'd rather help you with an issue now, so you don't have to come to me in 3 weeks falling behind and missing all the material. So get involved, ask for help, use your resources, and enjoy it, because it does fly by.
It does fly by. Thank you, Liza. Dan, your advice.
My advice, get involved in stuff. Like, admittedly, so I think when I first transferred, I was guilty of keeping to myself and not really asking for help. And just in this past year and a half, probably, I've started to connect more with my peers, and I'm just, a thought that I keep coming back to is, if I had sort of had the confidence to get involved, look for internships, and do these sorts of things sooner, I would have gained so much more experience. And I wish that I had had the confidence to sort of look for these opportunities like internships, because what I was holding myself back with is this thought of, oh, I wouldn't be good enough to operate in sort of a work environment at my full capacity. But I think, you know, with internships for at least college students, a lot of companies are understanding that it's a learning thing for you as a student. So yeah, definitely get involved in internships, and just you know, be careful that you're not holding yourself back from gaining this sort of experience.
Excellent point. And I just want to say that everybody is brilliant in their own way. Don't underestimate yourself. It does not pay off to underestimate yourself. But that also means put yourself out there and ask all the questions. But enough out of me. Mel, you're next. Your advice, please.
Like Dan and Liza said, open up, talk to people. On top of that, I would take it one step further and say to get into clubs. These clubs are nice for your resume, but on top of that, get in touch with your teachers a lot, like form relationships, and eventually, when the time comes, you have extra time, maybe try approaching one of them for research. For me, at least when I work with you, Professor, it opened my experience or my eyes up to how awesome like AI and neural networks were.
Thank you, Mel. Aayush, your advice.
I guess an honest piece of advice that I would give to not only my freshman self, but to whoever's listening to this, is find the right group of people. You know, when it comes to college, not essentially you can get mixed up in the wrong crowds. And like Liza mentioned, that independent factor can be very dangerous if you don't know how to handle it. But definitely find the right group of people that you can study with, that are going to be these are going to be your friends for the next 4 years of your life, you know? So definitely filter out the people that you'll know who to filter out, who you'll know who not to. Second of all, Mel also mentioned, and I think Liz also mentioned, that don't be afraid to seek, like, you know, like reach out to people, especially professors. If there's a problem, communicate. Like Liza mentioned, we rather have it, you know, resolved early than late. And of course, the most important of them all is maintain like a healthy balance when it comes to your academics and your life. You know, one can't be overpowered than the other. So that's my advice.
Thank you. And Liz, before I ask you, I just wanted to touch up again and maybe share a bit of information. So in my interviews with alumni, what was interesting is that they also emphasized on communication and the fact that you never know who is going to be your next colleague. So one of our alumni is actually starting up a company with his friend, another alumni of ours. And it's just so exciting. I wish them all the best. But the point being that these connections that you're making in college are for life. And you truly don't know when you're going to need that connection. Grow your network and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. There is no, we are engineers, you know, we don't need to be the next Beyonce or singer or master of ceremonies, but we're sociable. We're good people. We can communicate. So put yourself out there and don't be afraid of awkwardness. Don't be afraid of being an engineer and being a geek. It's all good. Let's just communicate and get in touch. So Liz, your advice, please.
My words would be take advantage. So it'd be take advantage of office hours, take advantage of mentors, take advantage of your TAs, and not in a bad way, but utilize them to help you. And if you don't understand something, they're all there to help you. Like I've been helping another student myself. So exactly, ask your peers for help. I think everybody has said that, but also, I had this mind, and Liza had touched on it. I wanted to go to school, go to my classes, boom, 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 and go home. And when I came back to school the second time around, I learned schedule out your classes where you have space in between to take advantage of the office hours and take advantage of doing your homework on campus or joining a club or socializing with your friends and take advantage of this opportunity. And that's, I guess, my advice, because everyone else said everything else. So.
Thank you. This is certainly, we say that time and time again. And Liz is right, as is everybody else. We're here for you. So don't be afraid to reach out. Like many people have said, there are no stupid questions. So it is very easy to misunderstand. It is very easy to misconstrue. Ask for clarification, ask for help. And just simply have a conversation. So one last thing before we wrap up. I know that a few of you have been or are involved in faculty research. Very briefly, if you could mention why would you load yourself up with additional work? And research is not as easy and straightforward to pursue. So frequently results are not really known. We expect something, we hope for something to materialize, but it doesn't necessarily. So why would you undertake that? Well, Mel conducts research with me, so I'll ask her first.
All right. Yeah, as you said, I conduct research under you, along with two fellow classmates / mentors. So pretty much reason why I joined, or obviously I joined with you, was because I thought it was interesting to reach out and learn a new field that I wasn't really knowing of. But once I got into it, it turned into more of a puzzle. It's like, does this piece fit with this piece? No, then all right, like let's try a different piece. It's more of a challenge. It's fun, honestly. And
okay.
At the end of the day, if you get it to work, which is great if you do, it's a nice thing to be able to publish something. But if not, I mean, keep trying, obviously, that's the goal. But overall, it's just fun to play around and just learn new techniques and such.
All right, thank you. That is a fun perspective of it. Liza, I think you must be conducting research for your master thesis at least.
Yeah, in a sense. So exactly. So as a master's student and as a TA, I have to write a thesis, and I'm not a huge fan of writing, so I have been putting off that bit a little bit. But there is some research that goes into, you know, how can I make a product be the best that it can be? And, you know, just like Mel said, of trying, you know, different solutions on how to tackle a problem. Oh, that doesn't work, backtrack, try something else. And the thing about computer science is with a degree, you really learn how to learn in a sense, right? Like we learn Java and we learn C and we touch a little bit on Python, I think now too. But what I've gotten really from my degree is, okay, here's how to code. Now I can go on my own and learn new languages based on that foundation. I always say it's like, if you know Spanish, it's really easy to then go ahead and learn Portuguese. Same idea. Once you know one computer language, it's easy to go teach yourself another because you have the logic behind it. It's just the syntax of trying to figure out where to go from there. But, and one more thing I wanted to add about, you know, UMass Dartmouth in general. As incoming freshmen, my last piece of advice for you would be, please take advantage of every single second on campus, because we all got kicked off of campus in the middle of a pandemic. And I know all of your high school careers ended very abruptly and not the way you wanted to. So when you get back to campus, because I know you will be on campus someday, you know, make the most of it. And, you know, if you're going to stay in on a Friday night, don't, or at least like study sometimes, but, you know, have a good time too.
And on that positive note, I think we can conclude. So have fun, mind your studies, and communicate. Thank you to our panelists, and hope you folks have a nice day.